Alrighty, last segment of the week. We're going to be reacting to a video. Imagine that. This video, we'll throw it up on the screen here. Eight unbelievable charts that will change the way you see the NBA. We're going to be talking a little more NBA as their season starts to get into the, more clear playoff picture area of the season. So we thought this would be a great way to kind of get in that NBA mindset and take a look back at some of the stuff. Now, before I play this, I do want to say this was published September 23rd, 2019. So it's like a year and a half old. So some of this could have changed. Obviously, we're seeing Beardy on the Rockets, and that has recently changed. But let's just get right into it. And Denver, just let me know if at any point you want me to stop the video.
You know, James Harden is often criticized for his flopping and how frequently he ends up at the free throw line. As a former MVP, some NBA fans feel that he gets calls that other players simply would never get. And, well, they're right. Here's a chart listing NBA guards that racked up the most free throw attempts last season. For the most part, they are all floating somewhere between 415 and 450. Some obvious players are guys like Westbrook, Beal, DeRozan, explosive guys that can get to the rim. Go up the list and you'll find Lou Williams. Damian Lillard amassed 500 free throws last season. But completely isolated in a league of his own is James Harden with 858. 345 free throw attempts more than the next guard. This is ridiculous. And a chart like this really displays just how ridiculous this is.
Holy shit.
That is the most insane thing I've ever seen in the NBA. Like, okay, I should preference, like, Dirk says it. I'm really, like, a pro sports guy, especially the NBA. And I had no idea. How does James Harden make it to the line almost 900 times in a season? That's crazy.
You think about that. So there's 82 games in a season. That means he made it there fucking almost 11 times a game.
Wow.
Holy crap. Oh my, obviously this is skewed. I'll be the guy who points out some of the mathematical flaws in this. Obviously, if you're starting at 400 instead of 0, this graph is looking a little weird. It's a little more stretched out than it normally would be. But the point remains, this gap is absolutely massive.
But Harden and his free throws are not the only crazy phenomenon that looks absurd when plotted on a chart. For example, in a previous video I did months ago, I spoke about the importance of Michael Jordan and how valuable his presence was for the Bulls. In 1998, Jordan's last season with the franchise, the Bulls felt that Jordan was so irreplaceable that they were willing to spare no expense to keep him around. Jordan wasn't just the highest paid player in the league. No. Here's a chart displaying the largest salaries of all NBA players in 1998. At the time, there was a good mixture of young players that inked major contracts as they proved to be elite.
Look at that. Look at what NBA players were making 20 years ago. That's insane. I know with inflation and how the economy works and all that stuff, that's crazy. But that's crazy. Look at that. $9 million a year for Reggie Miller. You know what makes $9 million now?
Give me a name.
Rajon Rondo.
A dude who's
he makes
washed,
7.5.
Yeah, washed and in the back half of his career. Wow.
And older veterans that were in their final years of huge contracts they had earned over years of dominating play. Karl Malone, NBA MVP the previous season, made just $5.1 million. Chris Webber, a rising young star, earned himself $9 million that season. Shaq, 1 year into his stretch with the Lakers, raked in $12.3 million in 1998, and Patrick Ewing signed one of the largest contracts in all of sports at the time, with $20 million over 20 years ago. But clearly, none of these teams felt their star player was as valuable as MJ, since the Bulls paid him by far the largest chunk of money in sports history at the time. $33.1 million for one season. In 1990,
that's fairly comparable to what most guys make now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're
holy
making
shit.
in like the between 30 and 40 something $million range. That's fairly comparable to what super elite
Like the-
dudes make now, and that's 30 years after the fact. 20.
I'm just gonna say this right now, is if you look at like the top 10 players like right now, they all make around like 27 to 32 million a year.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is absolutely wild to me. I can't believe that. Continue on.
1998, MJ's salary was 22% more than the salary cap for an entire team. If you adjust MJ's salary,
We knew this from The Last Dance. If you watched The Last Dance, you knew that the Bulls totally just destroyed the salary cap that season. Because, yeah, MJ made more than the salary cap was by, what did it say, 22%?
Season to 2019 numbers, Michael Jordan would have made about $125 million last season alone. To put this into
that is insane.
Oh my god, I love this.
perspective, Kevin Durant and James Harden both had salaries of $30 million last season. $3 million less than MJ had in 1998. Speaking of Durant and Harden, their former teammate Russell Westbrook has spent the last 3 seasons accomplishing a feat that was once considered nearly impossible. Back-to-back-to-back seasons averaging a triple-double. In 2017, when Westbrook pulled this off for the first time, it was absolutely unbelievable and it earned him a league MVP. The second time he did it, apparently it was less impressive, and the third time he did it this past season, he finished 10th in MVP voting. 10th. But regardless of how many times Russ gets a triple-double, no matter how immune we become to it, it is still an incredible feat. But to understand just how incredible Russ is, here is a chart showing players in the NBA who have accumulated the most triple-doubles over the last 3 seasons. Even the most elite all-around players struggled to get more than 5 over a 3-year stretch. Kevin Durant has 5, Giannis has racked up 9, only 4 players have managed to get in the double digits. Jokic is the only center on this list with 28, and LeBron James is above him with 39. But if I told you Westbrook was the king of the triple-double, it would be a vast understatement. With more than the next 3 players combined, Russ has notched 101 triple-doubles in the last 3 seasons. You are looking at possibly the largest gap of any statistic in the modern NBA. Russ has been putting up numbers so absurd that over the past 3 seasons, if he had a 26-10-10 game, he was having an average game. It's easy to shrug off these numbers now that he does it so regularly, but there's no denying Russ's greatness. And when it comes to greatness, quite possibly the greatest winner in sports history did something that
Look at the shorts!
will never be done again. Throughout the late 50s and 60s, Bill Russell and his Celtics dominated the NBA to the extent that I'm pretty sure the whole league just said, fuck it. I guess we'll just wait until the man retires. But most NBA fans know that Bill Russell won 11 rings in 13 seasons. What most fans may not know is the fashion in which he and his Celtics did it. Because it only took Russell 165 playoff games to win his 11 rings. Which at first glance may not sound all that crazy. But let's put it like this. The greatest players in NBA history are often defined by their ability to win when it matters most. So here's a chart displaying some of those all-time greats and their path to their championships. The further up the chart, the more playoff games they played. The further right, the more championships they won. In other words, low and right is good, high and left is still historically good, but in terms of all-time greats, it's kind of bad. Have any guesses on who these players are? I'll give you a second.
Okay. I think what Jordan is the 6 rings.
Well, Jordan has got to be one of
240.
these two. One of these two. It's probably this
Yeah.
one, I would guess.
Who else has 6 rings? No, Magic has 5.
I don't know. This is probably Robert Ory.
The legend.
6 ring. I have no idea.
I don't know. Let's
Well,
let's
no,
watch.
was Scotty was on every one of those Bulls.
Oh
teams,
yeah,
right?
yes, yep.
So
yep,
this is probably MJ since he retired, right?
No. Yeah, it should be MJ.
And so this is probably Scotty.
Yep. And then Kobe and Shaq are there, 2 of the 5s. I know that. I know Kobe's probably the lowest one. No, he's probably the middle one. The highest one's Shaq because he's been.
What are the odds? This is Steph. The low playoff games, but 3 rings. I bet that's Steph.
Yeah, it has to be.
At least quite possibly. All right, let's go.
In the middle, you have Larry Bird with 3 rings and 164 playoff games played. Stephen Curry got his 3 rings in historically quick fashion. LeBron has played a lot of playoff games but hasn't won a lot of rings. Tim Duncan has played
Kareem. So this has to be MJ then, right?
a lot of playoff games and has won more rings. Robert Ory somehow finessed his way into this realm of NBA legends.
Yeah, Robert Ory up there, immortal.
So props to him.
Mike
and
Jordan.
as
Mike
these names
Jordan.
pop up, you'll see that for the most part, it has taken most greats a lot of games to win a lot of rings. Now, Michael Jordan is a special case in that he won 6 rings in only 179 playoff games. That means, on average, MJ won a ring every 30 playoff games he played. And then, there's Bill Russell.
God.
Very low and very right, with 11 rings in only 165 playoff games, which is actually impossibly low and right. See, unlike in the past, in today's NBA, 16 games is a perfect playoff run to a championship, and most championship-winning teams play about 22 games in the postseason. In other words, a team could have a flawless postseason run, and it would still take 16 games to win a championship. In today's NBA, you would have to make the finals every season for 11 years, have a flawless run, and win a ring every season of that stretch, and it would still take you 176 games to win 11 rings.
Yeah, obviously, due to the fact that the league was a lot smaller, you knew it was going to be wild. But yeah, it's actually not possible to do anymore. Like, he's going to have that record forever. Like, no one's going to win as many rings in as few games.
Russell got his 11 in 165, a statistic so insane that it is literally impossible to beat. And although it isn't as glorious, this number LeBron has racked up is actually an incredible feat in its own right. Because of all active NBA players, no one comes even close to LeBron in terms of playoff experience. See, 239 playoff games may not sound like a ridiculous amount. That is, until you consider the fact that Andre Iguodala has the second most playoff games played of all active NBA players, and he has played in just 145. In fact, as you work your way down this chart, you'll realize that even the most vetted players in the league have nowhere near as many playoff games as LeBron. I mean, for crying out loud, Vince Carter, a man that has been in the NBA for 236 years, has played a mere 88 playoff games. Half of the Warriors roster from last season can be found on this list with over 100. In fact, there are only 9 current NBA players with more than 100 playoff games played, and those Warriors account for 5 of them. Regardless, they have a long way before approaching LeBron, who still has years of NBA basketball ahead of him. And all of those playoff games would possibly explain this. This is a different chart. I know. Looks similar to the last one, only this time we are looking at total playoff points of all active NBA players, and this time the margin between LeBron and everyone else is even larger. This is disgusting.
It's weird to look at this
You can look at this all you want, but
it's gone up in the last 2 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's because this would have not been. No, it would include everything except this last year. Yeah. Because it was late 2019. So it would include everything up through 2019.
It's difficult to really grasp the information you're looking at until you look at this. I like charts. Charts are good. Unfortunately, the majority of the time, these playoff points have not translated to championships. But dominance that has translated to rings is the 5-year stretch the Warriors went on between 2015 and 2019 when they took over the league and rewrote history books. To really understand how dominant the Warriors were the past 5 seasons, here is a chart showing the most dominant teams in the NBA since 2015 according to regular season wins and playoff wins. Towards the bottom, you'll find the Blazers and the Thunder floating around 250 wins. Despite the terrible season they had in 2019, the Cavs still managed to put up 280 wins since 2015. And of course, you have teams that constantly find themselves in deep playoff runs like the Raptors and the Rockets. But even the best teams in the league come nowhere near the success the Warriors had. Because since 2015, the Warriors have put up 399 wins. Nearly 100 more than the team with the second most. The difference between the Warriors and the Raptors is 92 wins. The difference between the Raptors and the 7th best Blazers is 55. And this makes sense when you consider the fact that the Warriors were 3 games away from winning 5 championships in a row. An absolutely dominating run we probably won't see again for a very long time. Lately, the Dwight Howard hate has been vicious and unrelenting. You can't help but to just feel bad for the guy. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick of it. The Dwight Howard disrespect must come to an end. If you started watching the NBA in the last 5 years, you probably know Dwight Howard as a soft, talented, but compromised big man who has more talk surrounding him off the court than he does on it. But a decade ago, Dwight Howard was a monster. If you didn't get the privilege of watching this man in his prime, do yourself a favor and YouTube it. Mans would give you 20 and 14 a night while being by far the best defensive player in the league. And for a moment, but just a moment, he even resembled a young Shaquille O'Neal. In fact, Dwight Howard has accomplished a feat so incredible, you have to see it to believe it. Here is a chart of current NBA players with the most 20-20 games. Dominant big men who can give you buckets and boards. Towards the bottom, you'll see young players like Jokic and Embiid. Anthony Davis and Nikola Vucevic lie towards the middle of the pack with 7 each. Only 7 players have managed to reach double-digit 20-20 games in their career, including a still very young Karl Anthony Towns.
Time out.
But go up the...
He spelled Hassan wrong.
He did.
List and you'll find the always underrated and underappreciated Andre Drummond, who has put up a ridiculous 32 20-20 games in his career.
2020's, I feel like that's being understated. 2020's hard.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's a lot of points and rebounds to get in a single game.
But north of all of his peers, solidifying his greatness regardless of the narrative that has been made of him, is the great Dwight Howard with 52 20-20 games in his career. That's more than DeMarcus Cousins, DeAndre Jordan, Anthony Davis, Clint Capella, Joel Embiid, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Nikola Jokic combined.
Holy shit.
All right, no, wait. I'm a huge Lakers fan, so
obviously, right? Ever since he left Orlando, he has not been the same player. So that's been quite a while now. But holy
8 years.
Crap.
8 years since he was in Orlando. He went to the Lakers in the 2012-13 season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put some respect on my boy's name. Holy crap.
For real.
And Dwight Howard has managed to do this in 15 seasons, while all of those elite bigs I mentioned have played a combined 52 seasons with less 20-20 games than Howard on his own. Contrary to what people want you to believe about Howard's career in the NBA, for the majority of it, he has been incredibly good. And there you have it. I know that these types of charts have been the highlight.
Wow.
That was a crazy video to watch. I like these react videos.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some more of these because I've been telling you, dude. This is a very interesting way to blend sports that we're interested in and like the more like analytical, like mathy type side of stuff that like kind of gets me to nerd out. That was a really interesting video. I'm glad we did that.
It was very fun. I am glad to.
We're gonna wrap it there for this week. I hope you enjoyed everything. If you're sticking around here till the end of the full podcast. And don't forget that wherever you are and wherever you're going, we appreciate you being here. And until next time, we'll see you.